The deck is no longer flat. It's a wall. Wooden planks tilt sharply beneath his boots as gravity pulls everything toward the ocean. Deck chairs slide past him, crashing into the rail before vanishing into the darkness below. The air smells like salt, hot metal, and coal smoke. Behind him, people are screaming. Not panic, not confusion. These are different. These are the sounds people make when they understand something irreversible is happening. The stern of the Titanic rises higher, 20 degrees, 30, 40. The largest ship in the world is now pointing toward the sky, and one man is still standing on it. His name is Charles Joughin, Chief Baker of the Titanic, April 15, 1912. Somewhere in the freezing Atlantic. In seconds, this entire ship will disappear, and he will go with it. The wind cuts through his clothes like knives. Each breath burns. Below him, the ocean churns violently as thousands of tons of steel sink deeper into the water. Everyone around him is trying to escape, climbing, sliding, jumping. But Joughin isn't running. He holds the rail and waits. The stern climbs higher, now nearly vertical. For a moment, the ship seems to pause, balanced. Then gravity takes over. The Titanic begins its final plunge. Water rises, black, cold, inevitable. And instead of jumping, Charles Joughin steps off. The ocean swallows him instantly. The water is below freezing, cold enough to shut down the body in minutes. Most people here will not survive. More than 1,500 will die in this water. But somehow, Charles Joughin will remain alive, floating in the same ocean that kills almost everyone else. Hours later, when rescuers pull him from the water, he will still be conscious, still moving, still alive. And the strangest part? Witnesses will later say he survived because he was drunk. But that creates a problem, because scientifically, alcohol should have made him die faster. So how did he outlast the deadliest water in the world? To understand that, we have to go back, because the choices he made that night were nothing like anyone else on that ship. And they started long before the ocean took everything. April 14, 1912. Late evening. The Titanic is moving fast across the North Atlantic. Cold water, clear skies, dark horizon. Wireless operators have already received multiple iceberg warnings from nearby ships. Other captains slow down in conditions like this. Titanic does not. She continues forward at near full speed. Confidence plays a role. The ship is considered advanced, strong, capable of handling the conditions, but the ocean does not adjust to confidence. At 11:40 p.m., the iceberg appears. Too late. Lookouts spot it. A warning is sent. But distance and speed leave no margin. The ship turns. Not enough. The hull scrapes along the ice. The impact is not violent. No explosion, no dramatic collision. Just a long, quiet, grinding sound. Above deck, most passengers barely notice. Below the waterline, the damage is already fatal. The iceberg has opened multiple compartments, more than the ship was designed to survive. Water begins entering immediately. Cold, heavy, unstoppable. The Titanic has less than 3 hours. Inside the ship, the reality spreads slowly. At first, confusion, then instructions. Passengers are told to put on life jackets. Lifeboats are uncovered. Crew members move with controlled urgency. In the bakery, Charles Joughin hears the message. The ship is sinking. Instead of rushing to escape, he starts working. He throws wooden deck chairs overboard, one after another. Anything that might float. Improvised lifelines for whoever ends up in the water. Then, he does something unexpected. He goes back to his cabin and begins drinking whiskey, glass after glass. while the largest ship in the world quietly fills with freezing ocean water. Time continues moving. The bow sinks lower. Passengers begin boarding lifeboats. Orders become louder, more urgent. But Joughin remains calm, still moving, still working, still drinking. As the final lifeboats leave the ship, the situation becomes clear. There are no more exits, no more options, only what remains. And Joughin makes one final decision. Instead of searching for a way off the ship, he walks toward the stern, the highest point, the last place that will remain above water, the place where survival becomes a calculation. Because when the ship finally disappears, anyone still standing there will be left with only one choice: the ocean, and whatever happens next. The ship is no longer sinking. It is falling. Slow, heavy, unstoppable. The stern rises higher, turning the deck into a steep surface where nothing stays in place. Every loose object begins sliding. Chairs, luggage, people. They move downward together, pulled by gravity toward the ocean waiting below. Charles Joughin grips the rail. His boots struggle for traction on wet wood. The angle increases. 50 degrees, 60. Now balance is no longer natural. Every step is a calculation. The wind cuts across the exposed stern, carrying spray that stings like needles against his face. Below him, the ocean is no longer flat. It is violent, moving in every direction at once, disturbed by the sinking mass of the ship. The sound changes. Metal begins to fail. A deep, drawn-out groan runs through the structure. Not sharp, not sudden. A long, breaking sound. Then, it gives. The ship breaks apart. Not cleanly. Steel tears. Connections fail. The stern shifts abruptly, dropping slightly as the forward section disappears beneath the surface. Everything moves at once. People lose their grip. Bodies slide past him, some screaming, some silent. The deck becomes a path leading directly into the water. Joughin holds on. For a moment longer. The angle stabilizes again, almost vertical now. The ship hangs there, balanced between surface and depth. Then gravity completes the process. The stern begins its final descent. Water surges upward, rushing over the deck in powerful waves. Cold spray fills the air. Breathing becomes difficult. The ocean is rising to meet the ship, or the ship is falling into it. There is no difference anymore. Joughin doesn't jump. He waits, until the angle reduces just enough, until the deck is no longer a vertical drop. Then, he steps off. No dive, no panic, just a controlled step into the Atlantic. The water hits instantly. Shock. His body reacts before thought. Breath forced out. Chest tightens. Limbs stiffen. Cold floods every nerve. Around him, chaos continues. People struggle. Debris moves unpredictably. The surface churns as the ocean absorbs the final movement of the ship. Within seconds, the Titanic is gone. Lights disappear. Sound fades. What remains is darkness, water, and scattered survivors. Floating, trying to stay above the surface, trying to keep breathing. And in water, this cold, time is already running out. The ocean doesn't calm immediately. For several minutes, the surface is violent, waves colliding, pulling, pushing everything in random directions. Charles Joughin is thrown sideways again and again, like debris in a machine that hasn't finished moving. He forces himself to slow down, not thrashing, not panicking, slow movements, measured breathing, because in water this cold, panic kills faster than temperature. The first stage hits instantly. Cold shock. His skin burns, not numb, burning. Thousands of sharp sensations across his arms, chest, and neck as blood vessels tighten. His chest contracts. Breathing becomes difficult. His body wants to gasp uncontrollably. That reflex alone kills many people. But Joughin stays controlled, calm, unnaturally calm. The alcohol in his system changes something, not physically saving him, but mentally stabilizing him. Enough to think, enough to act. His hands begin to lose precision. Fingers stiffen. Movement slows, but he keeps going. Small strokes, just enough to stay afloat. Then, he sees it. Wood, floating debris. Deck chairs he had thrown overboard earlier. They are still there, drifting between bodies and wreckage. He reaches one, grabs it, pulls himself partially onto it. Not fully out of the water, but enough to reduce effort, enough to rest. Around him, the noise fades. The screaming disappears, one voice at a time, until there is only wind, and water, and silence. The second stage begins, shivering, violent, uncontrollable. His jaw tightens, teeth collide. Muscles burn energy trying to create heat. But energy is limited. Time stretches. The stars above remain clear, bright, unmoving. The ocean below remains dark, endless. Occasionally, something bumps into him. Wood, clothing. Once, a body. He pushes it away slowly. His arms respond late. The third stage approaches. Shivering slows, then stops. Not because he is recovering, because the body is failing. His thoughts drift. At one moment, he is convinced he can smell bread. Warm, fresh, impossible. The memory fades quickly. He forces focus. Breathing, holding position, staying conscious. Then he sees it. A shape. A lifeboat. Overturned. Men clinging to it. He moves toward it slowly, each movement heavier than the last. When he reaches it, he grips the side. No space to climb fully aboard, but enough to reduce exposure, enough to survive longer. The sky begins to change. Darkness fades. A thin line of light appears on the horizon. Morning is coming. But his body is near its limit, and survival now depends on one thing: whether someone finds them in time. At first, no one is sure the shape on the horizon is real. After hours in darkness and cold, the human brain stops trusting what it sees. Survivors stare toward the growing light, eyes swollen, vision blurred by salt and exhaustion. The shape grows slowly, dark, solid. A ship, the RMS Carpathia. It has already picked up lifeboats hours earlier and is now searching the open water for anyone still alive. On the overturned lifeboat, the men barely react. They don't cheer. They don't shout. They are too exhausted, too cold, too close to shutting down. Rescue boats are lowered, ropes thrown, hands reach down. One by one, survivors are pulled from the water. Charles Joughin is among them. When he is lifted over the rail, his body trembles uncontrollably. His clothes are soaked. Salt covers his skin. His movements are slow but controlled. He is weak, but alive. Doctors examine him, and what they find doesn't match expectations. He has no severe frostbite, no immediate heart failure, only moderate hypothermia. For someone who spent hours in freezing water, it doesn't make sense. Later, witnesses begin to explain it. He had been drinking, heavily, whiskey. The assumption spreads quickly. Alcohol kept him warm. Alcohol saved him. But that idea is wrong. Alcohol actually speeds up heat loss. It widens blood vessels, pulling warmth away from the core. In most cases, it makes survival less likely. So what really happened? The answer is not simple. Joughin didn't survive because of alcohol. He survived despite it, because of behavior. He didn't panic. He moved slowly. He avoided exhausting himself. He found flotation early, and he kept his breathing controlled. Small decisions, repeated over time. That extended survival just long enough. Until rescue arrived, the Titanic becomes history, a symbol of failure, of overconfidence. But Joughin's survival tells a different story. Survival isn't always strength. It isn't always luck. Sometimes it's timing and the ability to stay calm while everything else collapses. Because in the end, survival is not about escaping the moment. It's about lasting through it, long enough for something to change. Before you leave, like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Because every story here is real, and every second you watched could be the difference between knowing and not surviving.